What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to all the newcomers, and if you're not subscribed to the channel already, please be sure to subscribe because we like to build race car trucks just like this one. So for today, we're going to be working on Nasty Love. I'm not sure everything that I'm going to do in this video, but one thing is for sure, we are going to install a seat. And what seat are we going to install? This bad unit right here. It is a Sparco Sprint. It is an FIA approved racing seat. I also got these universal seat brackets that are going to fit nicely in the truck. We already went and got a bunch of new fasteners for this. We got grade 10 and above because we don't want this seat going anywhere after it's installed. So I'm hoping installing this seat should be fairly simple. So the factory bench seat mounted here, here, and then the same on the other side. And as it turns out, the seat brackets that we got have the same mounting holes there and there. And this is some thick double wall steel right here. So that's kind of where I want to remount the seat. And with those two bolt holes lined up, it does line up nicely. But the only issue is we don't have it on this side here. So the way we're going to combat that is I bought some real thick steel spacers that we're going to put between here and the seat bracket. So we're going to go ahead and set the seat in here. And I'm going to have to grind down one of the spacers just so it can be at an angle so it sits flush on this sheet metal right here. But before we can do that, we got to put the seat in and mark where we need to drill holes for the bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and put the seat in here so we can mark for our holes. We'll get those drilled out and then we'll work on getting it mounted. So I had this seat temporarily mounted with some old Subaru bolts that I just had laying around. I went to the hardware store and I got some grade 10 bolts to mount this thing to the brackets. I've already got one in there. I'm going to put the other 3 in. And then we're going to test fit this in the truck and mark for all of our holes. So we've got our bolt in here just like that. I'm just going to mark around this bolt so that we can drill our hole. So obviously we got a center punch here, and back here. Now I'm going to clean up some of these metal shavings, paint some of the holes, and we'll put the bucket seat in for the last time and tighten down on the fasteners. All right, we got these holes painted up. Now we're just gonna set the seat in. We're gonna bolt up this side, and I'm gonna bolt up that corner there, and then I'm going to grind down the spacers a little bit so that they sit flush with this hole right here. So I've got all 3 fasteners in except for this last one here. Because we got these 2 spacers, I'm gonna grind this one at an angle here so that it sits flush on these 2 pieces. So let's go ahead and get that done. Now this is super sketchy. I do not recommend doing this at home, but this is what I got. All right, here we go, I guess. And now that was very sketchy, but I think I got the angle that I wanted. I'm gonna let this cool off and we'll see if it fits. All right, now I'm just gonna tighten all these up, which is gonna take 2 hands. So we'll see if we can get this done. All right, so this is gonna be a pain in the ass. All right, so there we go. Here's the seat installed in the truck as it's gonna sit. I have the bottom nuts tightened down. Now I just need to torque these side bolts and we are good to go, and this seat is final installed. Now it's on to the next project of the truck, which for me is going to be a couple of days, but for you guys it's going to be 1 second. Here we go. All right guys, so it is the next day. We already have the seat installed in the Chevy LUV. Up next we're going to pull out the steering box in the truck, get it resealed, and we're going to adjust it to get rid of some of the slop. So there's the steering box there. As you can see right here, it has been leaking all over my beautiful shop floor. We're gonna pull this thing out, replace all the seals in it, clean it up, maybe paint it. But first, before we can do that, we obviously got to take it out. And I don't think that this joint's going to come off very nice. So we got some Freol from the same people who make Tubbo towels. We're going to try to spray this on there. Hopefully that'll loosen it up so we can get this joint off so that we can get the steering box out. So let's go ahead and do that. Now while that soaks, we're going to go underneath and remove our pitman arm. All right, so one of the important steps here is we got to remove this nut so that we can remove this pitman arm from the steering box. Now we're gonna get a puller, put it on here so we can get these two separated. All right, we're gonna try this with an impact. Don't do this because this is really bad for pullers. Man, that bugger is really on there. Now I don't have a torch that I can put on this. Kind of running out of options here a little bit. All right, a little bit of change in plans. This is not coming off. So our solution is we're gonna take off this belly pan so we can get to the top of these two nuts here, which is another way to essentially take this out with the steering box. So let's go ahead and get that done. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the rest of these nuts that holds on this box, and then hopefully this joint just slides right out like it should, but we'll see. Good news is the Freol did work. Both of these joints are now free. This coupler was able to slide up the shaft, this one slid down, so that's great news. The Freol did its job. Now it's time to remove this steering box. And now this should just come right off. Just like that. So we're just gonna bring that into my work, get it cleaned up, and hopefully try to get it off there. So in the meantime, we're gonna come under here and remove the rest of the steering joints and arms so that we can bring these all in and get them cleaned up and put some new joints on them. So there is every single steering part off of the Chevy LUV. We got them all laid out here. I'm gonna bring these all into my work, clean them up, paint them, replace any joints that need replaced, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're actually taking a little bit of a break from the steering and suspension of the truck just because I took all that apart, I brought it all to my work, and I ended up cleaning it up, and that stuff isn't done yet. I'm still waiting on parts, but we did get a really exciting part back, and that is this right here. It is the engine for Nasty Love. We got all the parts for it. I'm super excited because we were basically waiting on this before we could do a ton more progress on the truck. So now that we have the engine here, there is a ton of stuff that I have that I can do to this thing. So to start with the engine, I need to get it painted. It's all crusty and rusty, and plus I want it to be Chevy orange. So first thing I gotta do is get rid of some of this rust. I'm gonna break out the wire wheel on a drill and get rid of some of this rust, and then I will put some rust preventer on it, and then we will go tomorrow and get some paint and get this thing painted. All right, so we're on the other side here. We're just gonna do the same thing, get rid of all this rust scale. This side is actually a little worse, but it's flatter, smoother areas, so hopefully it's a little easier to wire brush. All right, so this isn't exactly the ideal way to do it. You would definitely not want this on any good paint job, but this is how I'm gonna do it. So I have some prep all here and just a red rag, and I'm gonna clean up this surface. This has already been ran through a parts washer multiple times. So the surfaces are mostly clean, but I'm just trying to get it to where the rust converter will at least stick. So that's basically what I'm going for here. I'm not looking for a showroom quality paint job. So let's go ahead and apply this stuff. All right, so we're gonna flip this over, do the other side, let it dry, and then we're gonna apply our rust preventative. Now we're gonna let all this dry. We'll come back tomorrow, mask everything off, and get it painted. All right, so it's actually a couple of days later. I still haven't went and got the paint, but we do still need to take this off. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, then we'll run to the auto parts store, get some paint, and get this thing painted up. All right, so I just got back from the auto parts store. I got Chevy engine orange/red. I'm gonna go ahead and start painting this thing. I'm gonna do a real light dusting first, and then we're gonna put on like 2 to 3 heavy coats, and then we're gonna hit it with clear. All right, now let's hit it with the first thick coat. I'm probably gonna let this sit for a good 15 minutes before I do the next coat, because this is a really wet coat. So we're gonna let that sit. I'll come back and then we'll do 2 more heavy coats and then start with our clear. All right, so that was the last coat of paint. Now we're gonna let this dry for about an hour, and then I'm gonna hit this all with a couple coats of clear, and this thing will be good to go. I'll let it cure for probably a day or 2 before I even touch it, and then we'll pull off all this tape and assemble the short block. All right, so I just laid down the last coat of clear, and this thing is actually looking really good for an engine block. I'm really happy with the results. We're gonna let this thing cure like I said, and then we're gonna get to assembling this short block. All right, so it's been a day or 2 since we painted this block. It is now well cured. Now it's time to assemble the short block. That means crankshaft in, camshaft in, rods, pistons, everything torqued down and good to go. I'm not positive. I haven't degreed a cam ever before. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to do that on this. So I guess we'll learn as we'll go. I might have to buy some tools. I might not even do that in this video. Might just get the cam installed without the timing chain on. But without further ado, let's get to assembling this short block. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is install all the main bearings in the bottom half. We're gonna clean up the crankshaft, drop it in, install all the caps, and torque them. I cleaned up all the bearing seats here, so we're gonna go ahead and install those real quick. All right, now we're gonna clean up this crankshaft. The best I have is these blue rags. They're not necessarily lint free, but we'll just be cautious, try not to get much lint on any of the bearing races, and we should be good to go. All right, from what I can see, basically all the lint is off of these. We're gonna go ahead and throw this in the engine. There we go. Okay, now let's go ahead and install these. All right, so now we're gonna torque these. All right, now let's make sure the crank still spins freely, which it does. Nice and smooth. We're gonna put in all the side bolts and torque those down. All right, everything is all torqued and this crankshaft turns beautifully. Now we're gonna work on getting the camshaft in. All right, so we have the camshaft here. I'm going to lube it all up and then we're gonna go ahead and install it. Man, it's tough. Thing is heavy when you don't have a whole lot of leverage on it. All right, so now we're gonna install the cam retainer plate. All right, here we go with 18 foot-pounds. All right, that is torqued. Toss this cam gear on there. All right, so it is actually a new day. We are going to be assembling the rods and pistons so we can drop those in the block. And we're also gonna put on our timing set. And it turns out I do not need to degree my camshaft as per Texas Speed. They are the ones who make the cam. And pretty soon we should have this short block together. So let's go ahead and get these rods assembled to the pistons. So as it turns out, we want the large chamfer of each rod facing the crankshaft counterweight. So this is a driver's side piston. The dot is facing the forward position and the valve reliefs are at the top of the piston. So that means the dot is going to be going forward on this one. This is the driver's side bank. This chamfer is also going to be going forward, so they're going to be assembled like this. I'm going to clean all this up before I assemble it. It's still slightly dirty. I did clean these at my work, but we just want them sparkly so we don't have any grit in there. Alright, there is one piston installed to the rod. This, like I said, this is a driver's side bank. I don't want to bore you guys too much, so I'm going to put you in a time lapse. We're going to get all this done. Alright, we've got all the rings installed on all of the pistons. Now we're going to go over to the block, we're going to clean out the bores really well, and then we're going to get to installing these pistons. Got some brake parts cleaner and a clean rag. Now I'm just going to lube up the cylinder a little bit. There we go. On to the next one. I'll go ahead and just... Alright, now we are going to torque every one of these rod bolts to 80 foot-pounds as per ARP. Alright, there we go. Everything is torqued up. That means our short block is almost done. I just got to put on the timing chain and this short block will be assembled and that will conclude this video. So let's go ahead and get that timing chain on. And then we will put our chain on the larger gear here, just like that. 20 and 26. Let's double check. Yep, good. I'm just going to crank this thing over a couple of times and make sure that our timing is still on. Our timing is still good. So that is it. That means this short block is fully assembled. And that also concludes today's video. I don't want this video getting too long. Now, I did not finish the steering setup on the truck. I'm still working on that, but that will get done soon. Parts are on their way. Thanks guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and guys, let's get to building nasty love.